And then you drop your support by your peers, your other officers that are working with you by half. So now you're doing more work because we got more people moving to Portland, but you have less than half the help. So those individuals are being put under so much pressure. And if we are, like we're saying, if we don't have the social infrastructure, but we're defunding the crime pieces because we're trying to do that, we're not managing the change in a way that's going to actually be sustainable.
That's all I'm asking is to manage the change
Right.
in an actual way that will be sustainable.
Yes.
And that's
We would
what
love for that
that's
to
what I'm
happen.
trying to get at. I'm not trying to say I'm totally against the police force. I'm
Oh,
totally
and we don't think that
and
either.
all of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we need to, as a community, evaluate everything. We need to have an
Yeah.
open mind and have an open heart
And I will
lots
tell
of
you that
information.
Portland is not very open to change. And I can say that because we don't receive any funding from the city. We don't receive any funding from the county. So there is nobody that I have to watch my mouth around. So I can tell you that they don't like us. They don't like
Who doesn't like
Bybee.
you?
Yeah, who?
If I told you that, I'd be picking fights. That's not very nice.
I think I know the gentleman there, of course.
Are you talking about city council there or?
No,
Oh,
because they
citizens.
are supportive. But
Citizens.
there are a lot of the other service providers in the area don't like us coming in.
Because you're
Oh,
taking
Because
their
you're
money.
competitive.
We're,
You
we're,
go,
we're not
You're doing
competitive.
a better job than they are.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here to accept that compliment.
And their money's going to be taken from them and given to you.
Well,
So
and-
they don't like
And
you.
here's a comparison that I'll give you, and I am bragging, and I'm fully willing to own that I'm bragging when I say this. We just had a forensic financial analyst go through all of our finances as a volunteer because he really loves what we do and he wanted to help us make sure that we have all our reports all lined up and stuff for major donors. And he figured out that once Bybee Lakes is fully renovated and we have 318 beds there, it's going to be $2.1 million in operating expenses for us to run it. 2.1. So if you divide that by the 318 beds by 365 days in a year, it's costing us less than $15 per day per person to run Bybee Lakes, right? Do you know how much your shelters are costing the city?
I'm saying you're doing a better job.
So they don't
the money's
like
going to get
us.
taken from them because they do a shitty job.
Well, I
and
can't
give
say
it
that.
to you. So they don't like it. I'm sorry, I speak bluntly.
I notice and appreciate that. You had a question.
I guess a question. You know, you said, well, if they want to stay 6 months, they could stay 6 months.
Yes, sir?
What are you doing, and what percentage, if you are, congratulations if you are, changing that person so they contribute to the society rather than be a victim of society?
Ooh, I love this question. You want to know our success rates?
Yeah.
Okay, so we offer people that time to stay as long as they need, but they have to still be working their program. So they have to still be doing their community service hours every week. They have to be taking their random drug and alcohol testing whenever we ask it for it. They have to be, if they're not employed, they have to be submitting job applications if they're able-bodied and they're looking for work and able to work. They have to be meeting with their case manager. They have to be filling out all their forms to show that they're putting in the work and actually moving forward still.
Do you help them with a GED if they don't have it?
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we work on those basic life skills with folks.
Okay.
So if I know that you are a veteran who has PTSD, let's say, then you need to be accessing mental health treatment. So the first step is going to be identification. Second step is going to be getting you health insurance. Third step is going to be figuring out how to access mental health treatment, right? We're going to hold your hand through all those things.
Sure.
That's just one tiny sliver of a person. That's just their veteran status, right? If I also know that you've experienced domestic violence, you need to be accessing services for that. If I also know that you've got a mental health challenge that's not related to the PTSD, you need to be accessing services for that. We take that big picture approach. We figure out what kind of classes you're going to need, if you need financial wellness coaching, if you need help writing a resume, if you need help learning how to communicate, how to work through anger issues, how to process the trauma that you've been through. We figure out all that big picture stuff. What do you need to be successful? That's why we say stay as long as you need to stay. Because if you need to take 3 more classes, if you need to get a couple more months of pay in the bank, and then that's going to be the difference for you between being able to stay in that house once you graduate, we're going to give you that time. So that all being said, we keep track of people for about 3 years after they leave our program. And we have shown that 80% of women and 75% of men are still maintaining independent housing 3 years after our program. So that's compared to a success rate in the teens for a shelter system. Like 18-19% of people will leave an emergency shelter that doesn't have those wraparound services and actually be able to land in permanent housing.
Are you really making a dent in with the people that are left out in the streets, you know, the homeless?
One at a time.
One at a time.
One at a time, man.
One at a time. That's our focus. We're person-centered.
Okay.
One more person off the street. And I will say, because I'm a numbers person, that same financial person that gave our books the whole run-through, he also did some numbers for us on how many unique individuals we could serve at Bybee Lakes with those 318 beds. So with the average length of stay in our emergency shelter being you can stay this many days, and this the long-term program would be to stay about this many days, he figures that we're going to be able to help 4,900 unique individuals per year at Bybee Lakes. So
I don't think people are aware of what you're doing. I really don't.
So what do you think you can do about that?
It's your job, not mine.
It is. Yeah, you're right. And that's why I'm here on my personal time when my fiance would rather I be having dinner with him. Because I care.
I asked that question is because the Birch Society does something similar to what you're doing. They take people that are low income, you know, and they charge them $60 a month, and then they get all the food they want. They have clothes. They help them get their GED. They help them get jobs. And it sounds like you're doing something similar to that in a way on a broader scale.
We do that, and then we also do work with the trauma that people have experienced and making sure that those bigger picture items are also getting worked. Because if you just give somebody food and shelter and clothes and a job, and you stick them back in a house, they're gonna end up back at my door in 6 months.
Raven, I think there's a lot of people here tonight who weren't aware of the background, how you guys ended up in Portland,
Okay.
and your history on the coast, and how
Okay.
successful you
Yeah,
have been.
we can do that. So, Helping Hands was started by a gentleman named Alan Evans, and Alan was homeless for 27 years. And he spent 4 months living in Portland and lived under the Burnside Bridge right before he came out to Seaside, which is the last place that Alan was homeless. And he was arrested one last time and was purposely looking to get arrested because he had gone to every door asking for help, and he was turned away at the time 20 years ago as a single man. He couldn't even get Oregon Health Plan. So he was turned away from services, finally got himself arrested one last time, and the police officer treated him like a human being and said, "Tell me your story. How did you end up here?" And just being seen like that changed his life. So 6 months later, after that police officer helped him get clean and sober, Alan came back to him and said, "I want to start a program for people that are just like me, that don't have a penny in their pocket, and give them a path to get off the street." So he started an 8-bed house in Seaside. That was in 2002. And 6 months later, they were housing 67 men, women, and children because people flocked to the service. They expanded into Tillamook County, because that was in Seaside, so it's Clatsop County, right? So Astoria, Seaside. They expanded into Yamhill County because somebody said, "Hey, I see what you're doing over there. I want you to come do it over here." And then they expanded into Lincoln County, and most recently into Tillamook County. So we currently have 11 facilities in 5 counties. We're housing 350 homeless people per year. And we've been running these programs, really achieving success, helping people one-on-one. Something that made a really big shift for our organization was Alan was reunited with his little brother. So Alan's really very open about his history. If you've seen him speak, he really owns a lot of what happened to him because he wants to get rid of the shame and the stigma so that other people can acknowledge where they're at and move forward. So Alan would share with you, and would not mind that I share, that when he was 11 years old, he was hung by his father in the yard, and that a neighbor found him and cut him down and saved his life, and that at 11 he was removed from his abusive to alcoholic parent home and was put into foster care, and unfortunately he was put into an abusive boys home. So when Alan ran away from that abusive boys home when he was 13 years old, he ended up on the streets and was addicted to methamphetamine within 6 months. at 13 years old. And so he spent 27 years on the streets with so much trauma, with addiction, with just extreme poverty in cycles, and could not get out of it. And so he considers himself to be the worst case that we will ever have. And I don't know if that's true, but we fought and clawed our way to be able to serve the homeless from the perspective of people with lived experience. And I think that is such a driving force for compassion in our organization, because we understand. And I've personally never been homeless, but I am so grateful for the opportunity to participate with this incredible team of people that just really wants to help the community. We know that it takes a lot of work in a lot of different areas for people to get off the street, and we want, society, we want there to be a simple answer. We want to be able to easily blame addiction. We want to be able to easily blame mental health because it makes sense to us, and then we have a reason and we can just write it off. But the truth is, every single person's story is different, and every single person is capable of change. And I've had the great opportunity after almost 5 years with this organization to know so many people who come in completely broken and beat down and won't even look me in the eye. And I am not a very intimidating physically person, right? I'm 5'5.5", and there are 6'4" men that won't look me in the eye when they come in because they don't feel self-worth. And to watch that light come back into their being when they realize that there's hope, that even if they have to take 500 steps to get to the point where they can actually get out and get a home, that we're gonna be there, we're gonna help them, it's doable, there's hope, people have done it before you, so pick yourself back up and figure out how to move forward. And I think that knowing that people have walked that path and are willing to walk it next to you, that makes the true difference for people. Shar?
I just want to say the difference between you and the shelter system, which is insane in my point of view. They kick them out at like 6 a.m. in the morning. You can't get into them until like 7 or 9 p.m. And then they kick you out in the morning. There's no way to survive when you only get a bed to sleep in.
You don't even get a bed, you get a cold, hard mat on a floor with a 6-foot square taped off, and the next person is arm's reach from you.
Yeah.
And they're probably smell really bad and are probably whacked out of their head. And you want to close your eyes and go to sleep.
I don't want to see people thrown in jail. I want them to be given an option. But from what I can see, there's no consequence to making a difference in their life. And so they just drift from one place to the other. So I would like to see that the police are able to put teeth to that and say, you know, look, we've talked to you several times. We've invested, the teams that are working, I think there's only been like 12 or 17 something in the teams that have accepted help. But yet we're paying a big salary for these people to go out and work.
It was
I'm not
12.
condemning that.
It was 12 out of 981 that actually went through treatment.
And I'm not condemning that. I want to see teeth to having people accept not everybody is at that.
Which is
point.
I'm gonna do the purple lady because you already spoke once, Craig, but we'll get to you
One
next.
question to ask, you've given stats and these are really great on helping these people, but there's got to be stats for people that do not want the help, that you guys try to provide for them and they just don't want it.
No, I don't have those stats. And the reason is that we are a referral-only organization.
Right,
So
exactly.
we don't go seek people out. We're already at capacity. We're helping the people that want help.
Yes.
And so there might be somebody else who would track attempts to get people to homeless services in general,
Yeah.
but we don't track that because
Okay.
we just get people.
That's the navigation team. That's the one I put on our page, that they had 12 people that actually accepted treatment out of 981.
In 24 months.
But is treatment, because treatment usually means like a defined, like drug treatment
Right,
or
right,
something.
right.
That may not be that may not be fully representative of the people who accessed resources in total.
I think that's what it was, because it was a navigation team number.
It was a navigation.
I'm not sure.
I gotta admit, I've never been to a meeting like this. I mean, we got a lot of people, and we all respect different views, and yet we've got this energy. We're capable of doing things, and I gotta ask myself, what am I gonna do when I leave here? What can I do? And I have had some good conversations with a journalist named Maxine Bernstein with the Oregonian, and I mean, this needs to be covered. You know, how are we going to get the word out and get the support from the community to communicate to people in the county and the city of what?
Great at developing this partnership.
But I sort of pointedly asked you, sir, what can you do? Because it is a community problem. And I'm working 60 hours a week to try to get as many homeless people off of your streets as I can. And I can't serve the whole community. This is a huge community. But if every single person in this room committed to telling 3 people about the Bybee Lakes Hope Center, that would be 100 people almost that would then know about Bybee Lakes. And that could trickle outward.
There should be a lot of people that know about you just off our page. I've had posts that we put on there that see 4,000 people.
Yeah,
read
they're
it.
really great.
You know,
and that's
so
awesome.
I
Please
know,
keep doing that. It makes a really big difference because here's the thing. We need money. If I can be fully transparent with you, we're not receiving city funding. We're not receiving
everybody,
county
donate
funding.
$5 each.
So, well, it's not even that. But here's the thing. We're a nonprofit. Yeah, we can give you a tax receipt and all that. But yes, please. If you're going to donate $5, we're going to send you a tax receipt. We're going to be real excited about it. But if you tell people about the work that we're doing, so that when I go ask somebody for big money, they've heard about me and they know the work from people in their community, it's going to make my job a little easier. Because I ask for money with a lot of commas in it. Right? And I'm okay with that because I'm okay with being told no. That's not going to hurt me. But it makes it easier if the community is like, hey, did you know about this cool project? And then I come and say, hey, did you know about this cool project? And it's not the first time they've heard it. So that's why I very pointedly said, what can you do? Because word of mouth is super, super, super powerful. And I think that we discount that in an age of technology, but it is very, very, very important for us to individually advocate for the things that we think are important in our community. There's a hand over here. Was it Neola?
Yeah. Some of you already know, I'm a volunteer with Fort Kennedy, which is right down on Johnson Creek Boulevard. It's a day center for homeless veterans. We hope to work with Bybee Lakes.
Yeah.
If you want to volunteer, they get no government funding. It's all by fundraiser, which we have not been able to do for the last year. I belong to a car club, and we have helped them put on a car show to raise money. And we're planning on doing that in August, if everything goes okay. They need people to come in and sort clothes when they've been donated. They need people to take food once a month or once a week. They have about, I think, 50 people that they take food out to. Thanksgiving and Christmas, they buy presents for kids. These all come from their caseworkers. They get recommended if this family needs whatever they might need. It's a wonderful organization. They've been doing this for about 6 years. First Sergeant Tina Kennedy was in the Army for 22 years. She has severe PTSD. When she got out, she saw a need, and she started collecting food and clothes from her garage. Luckily, as it just happened that this company donates a 5,000 square foot building, and they pay all the utilities. It's the only way they can operate. Yes, people can donate money, but the goods are very important as well. I finally had to rent a storage locker to put the donations that I was getting. And I need help sorting through things. We make up a basket with all of the basics for a kitchen and all the basics for a bathroom when the veteran gets housed. And it doesn't happen real often, but we are getting them there, which is wonderful to see. So if anybody wants any more information about it, I'd be happy to stick around and talk to you, what you might be able to do to help. Like I said, one thing that Sergeant Tina is hoping to do is out at Bybee Lakes is have the little houses, an area for veterans. And I know you serve veterans as well. but yours is, you know, you're living there. This is just a day center. But the police are aware of it, so if they pick somebody up, they know they can take them there. They can go in and drop off their dirty clothes, get some clean clothes, take a shower, get a haircut. There's a lawyer that comes in one day a week, pro bono, can help them with any legal issues they have. When I first started with them, I was concerned for the service dogs, or animals. And I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. So that was how I started with them. And I get donations. There was one company that donated over $8,000 worth of flea control. Now, if these people are living out in a tent or in their car, they've got an animal that they love probably more than anything else in the world.
So I'm going to jump in because we've got 2 minutes left.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you want
All
to
right.
talk to Neola about the Vets Association after the meeting, I'm sure she'd love to check your ear off. If I can answer maybe one more question. Does anybody have any burning questions about Bybee Lakes before we adjourn?
Do you have volunteers there?
We do. So all of our meals right now are being done by volunteers. So we do a continental breakfast in the morning, which is in-house, and then through the Interfaith Alliance, a group of volunteers, like a different congregation, does a different day of the week. And they bring in bagged lunches, and then we have volunteers come in and cook the hot dinners in our food truck that's in the parking lot currently, because our kitchen is on the side that's still under renovation. And so I think that we have a ton of volunteers that have signed up for that, so I don't know how many they need for that, but we also have all of our classes on site are led by volunteers. So we've got Zoom capabilities. So we've got some folks that are Zooming in and some folks that are coming in person, just depending on comfort level. But we have classes, like I said before, on like yoga, meditation, communication. We've got art classes, we've got writing classes, we've got financial wellness and budgeting and all that kind of stuff. They're all just led by community members that have that as their thing of expertise. It's like a State Farm agent comes in and does budgeting and insurance issues, and there's a credit union outreach person that comes in and does what kind of accounts you can open to repair your credit score and all that kind of stuff. So all that's done on a volunteer basis. So if you're interested in volunteering, email volunteer@helpinghandsreentry.org.
I'm sure that's on your website.
No, but I saw that.
I'm
Well,
sure
thank
it's on
you.
there. I'm sure it's on their website.
The email address is volunteer@helpinghandsreentry.org.
Thank you, Raven.
I know.
Thank you, Rick.
It's always nice to hear what's going on out there.
Thanks, yeah. And if anybody wants to come through for a tour because you're just burning to see it, then come and see me or get my email address from Charlotte. It's probably easier. Email me and I'll set you up a tour.
Cool.
That was great. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
You're kind of like fire, and you did a